BingX, a trusted global crypto exchange. Trade spot, futures, or copy top traders easily. Sign up via the link or referral code to get 30 USDT instantly, plus up to 1,500 USDT in bonuses for verification, deposit, and trading.
In Venezuela's darkest hours, a beacon of hope emerges as María Corina Machado is awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. This prestigious recognition for her extraordinary yet unfinished struggle against Venezuela's brutal, authoritarian state under President Nicolás Maduro raises a crucial question. Will this accolade galvanize her tenacious campaign to unseat the current leadership, or could it inadvertently trigger a harsher crackdown from the regime's feared security forces? The timing of this announcement, following years of deepening political and economic turmoil that has seen millions of Venezuelans flee the country, amplifies the stakes. Machado's unwavering optimism, famously articulated during a nationwide blackout in March 2019, where she vowed to guide her nation out of darkness, now finds renewed resonance. Her celebratory words upon receiving the prize echoed this sentiment, declaring, "We are living the darkest hours." But at the same time there is enormous hope, and reaffirming her commitment, Venezuela will be free. International supporters, like European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, have expressed confidence in the inevitable triumph of democracy, stating, "The thirst for democracy always prevails." Carlos Lizarralde, an author deeply familiar with Venezuela's collapse, believes the Nobel Prize will significantly bolster Machado's standing, cementing her position in the eyes of the international community as the one credible opposition leader in the South American nation. He draws a parallel, suggesting that a Nobel laureate is akin to a secular equivalent of a living saint, a powerful complement to Machado's fervent public persona. A devout Catholic, her image has often been associated with religious symbols, a characteristic that has resonated with many during her public appearances, even as she has been forced into hiding following last year's contentious presidential election. However, not all observers share this optimistic outlook. David Smilda, a Venezuela expert from Tulane University, acknowledges that the prize will definitely draw more international attention to the Venezuelan conflict and perhaps create more resolve to end it. Yet, he cautions against expecting a fundamental shift, citing historical precedents such as the 1994 Nobel Peace Prize awarded to Yasser Arafat, Shimon Peres, and Yitzhak Rabin, which he argues did not fundamentally alter the entrenched interests and forces at play in the Middle East conflict. The impact of Nobel Peace Prizes awarded with the intention of fostering political change in authoritarian regimes has been a subject of considerable study. Political scientist Ronald Krebs, who has researched this phenomenon, points to discouraging trends. He recalls the case of Chinese poet and activist Liu Xiaobo, who received the prize in 2010 while imprisoned, a decision met with sharp condemnation from Beijing. Despite the international recognition, Liu died 7 years later, still in custody, and his homeland has since become an even more repressive one-party state. Similarly, Krebs notes the 2003 award to Iranian activist Shirin Ebadi, whose laureate status may have offered some personal protection from persecution. However, he argues, it did absolutely nothing for those who were not similarly protected. If anything, they were further repressed because of the Nobel Peace Prize. Krebs elaborates on a concerning dynamic. While such prizes can inspire human rights defenders to act with greater vigor, they simultaneously provide the repressive regime even more incentive to repress those who would seek to effect change. This creates a problematic and worrisome dynamic that ultimately works to the detriment of those who are advocating for domestic political change, a situation he starkly characterizes as the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Despite these cautionary tales, allies of Machado hold out hope that her Nobel Prize will bulletproof her against any potential reprisals from the current regime. Nevertheless, Krebs expresses extraordinarily doubtful prospects for achieving democratic change through this avenue. Andrés Cesara, a former minister under Hugo Chavez, echoes this skepticism, although he concedes that Venezuela's authoritarian president is currently facing the most significant challenge of his 12-year tenure. Maduro finds himself increasingly isolated internationally, particularly after accusations of election fraud in the race won by Machado's ally, Edmundo González. Compounding his difficulties is an unprecedented pressure campaign from the United States, which many observers believe is deliberately aimed at facilitating regime change. Since August, a notable naval buildup has occurred off Venezuela's Caribbean coast, accompanied by a series of targeted strikes on alleged drug smuggling vessels. Izarra himself observes, "There's never been a clearer chance of displacing Madurismo from power than now." However, the former minister dismisses the notion that this American pressure will inevitably break Maduro's regime by provoking a military uprising. Izarra also expresses doubt about the likelihood of a direct U.S. invasion, describing the Caribbean deployment as a regime change operation, but it's a performative one. He posits that its true purpose is to coerce Maduro into making concessions during covert negotiations, which he believes are already underway between U.S. and Venezuelan officials. Izarra predicts a resolution at the negotiating table, asserting that Maduro and his allies were never going to surrender power voluntarily. Conversely, he believes that former President Trump, mindful of his mega movement's aversion to prolonged military engagements, would never risk alienating his base by deploying American troops. They don't want forever wars. They don't want Vietnam. They don't want Iraq, Izarra states. Amidst this complex geopolitical landscape, one element remains strikingly consistent: María Corina Machado's unyielding resolve. Known for her steadfast determination and admiration for Margaret Thatcher, earning her the moniker Venezuela's Iron Lady, she is unlikely to waver. Liz Arald, describing her as a true fighter, predicts Machado will continue her relentless pursuit of change. He characterizes her perspective as an epic struggle between good and evil, and she is convinced she represents